Okay, all right. Thank you, reInvent. Oh my goodness. It has been a crazy week. Who has had what they think is an interesting experience this week? Yes? Yes. What was your experience? Say again? All of it. The traffic. Oh my gosh, that was very interesting for me too. Actually, I'm a runner, and if I wasn't, we'd be waiting another 10 minutes. So that's an interesting experience. I'd like you guys to come on up here. I'll say kind of a hello. And so I'm Zach, and I lead product for Amazon QuickSight. I've been building software professionally for 25 years next year. And I do this work because I really believe in the power of data to help us make better decisions, because I think that can maybe improve the quality of life that we all live. And joining me today are two wonderful customers. Rob, would you like to say hello first?
Sure. Rob Martin. I'm the VP of Technology at the Rehrig Pacific company. So I lead our new product development function for our technology vertical, so product management, engineering, and advanced R&D. Been in this space 25 years, and I really just enjoy bringing products to market that really help the workers.
Wonderful. Really glad to have you here. And Nick, would you like to say hello?
Hey everyone, my name is Nick Koenig, Senior Director of Analytics at GoDaddy. I've spent my 11-year career in data and business intelligence and have, I calculated it, over 10,000 hours of hands-on experience with BI tools.
Oh, awesome. Hey, you're an outlier.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. You guys, thank you for saying hello. I'll welcome you back up when it's time for you to speak. These guys have some amazing use cases, so I'm going to kind of just burn through our stuff pretty quickly. But is anybody familiar with this? You know what this is? No? No. So this is actually, this person in the front, yes. Actually, we work together. So this is a very famous data visualization that was used as a tool to solve a real problem that people had. And so what you're seeing here is the sort of blue circles on the outside, these sort of very large wedges. Compared to these kind of smaller sort of black and red wedges, they indicate death in the health tents of the British Army. And so it turns out that the black wedges, which were actually mortality causes from fighting, were sort of minuscule compared sort of visually to these sort of very large blue wedges. And so this very famous statistician by the name of Florence Nightingale was able to use this data, this understanding, in order to then influence the perspectives of the leaders of the British Army, and is credited, therefore, in introducing the modern, clean operating environment. So here's a fun factoid and an example of how data can be used as a tool to solve real problems that people have. So how many in the room are already using QuickSight? Yes, okay, about half. Anybody using Q today? Yes, a couple of people using Q, that's great. So QuickSight, for those who don't know, is our general purpose BI service at Amazon. And QuickSight has actually sort of been around now for quite a while, and people are using it for more and more use cases. But you'll find that what customers like most about it is scale, performance, and some of the differentiated capabilities of AI that we bring. So at least that's what I find when I talk to customers. We do have a lot of customers today. The list keeps growing every time we have to update this slide and add new logos. It's sort of exciting for the conference. And what we're seeing is that when people do move to QuickSight, they're seeing significant benefits. And so a lot of this sort of cost or scale or performance benefits really roll into this number on the bottom right, which is ROI. And so that's kind of how I think of like how it is different. I've been in this industry for a very long time, and I've worked on many tools, and I can say I've never seen customers be more successful more quickly with a tool than I'm seeing with QuickSight. An interesting example of this, we actually published this week a blog about Whole Foods, which of course is an Amazon internal customer. but they've migrated off their previous BI, and they're seeing just incredible impact of sort of 90% improvement in performance and 70% better sort of ROI as a result. So that's really astounding. I'm catching my breath, and I'm also talking at the same time. We have these sort of standard capabilities you would expect. You can create wonderful interactive dashboards. We have a lot of people building apps, and some of our customers here today are sort of doing this with QuickSight. I would say more than other BI services that I've worked on. And we have this paginated reporting capability as well. This is really helpful because it allows people to sort of take those traditional business reports that they've always relied on. Now you can run them in the cloud. You can share your governance model. You can share your data. Now, back in April, we launched Amazon Q in QuickSight. And so what this does is it provides natural language functions for people to get data insights more easily and more quickly. And so we have it in a few different places. We allow authors to build dashboards quickly using natural language. We have a data Q&A capability, which allows business users to answer questions of their dashboards that are sort of not already answered in their dashboards. And we have some, I would say, like insight generation capabilities. So we can give you executive summaries of your dashboards, pull out specific trends and insights. We can also generate stories, which are like documents or slides. And so you can have Q generate a slide, sort of explaining what's going on in your business. And so we can do that today. Now, what I see, though, and so I would hold on here just for maybe a show of hands. Are there people in your organization that fall into this sort of category? They're a business manager, but they're not a data analyst. And so they're responsible to do an analysis. But yes, I see some people nodding as you're sort of thinking about this. Show of hands, how many people feel that this is going well today? Yes? No. Okay. All right. Show of hands, how many people would like to see better efficiency or more capabilities in this area? Okay. All right, great. Look, can I get an example from some of the audience, one of the use cases you think? Yes? Oh, yeah, that's great. So the business managers, they have more expertise in the domain. Turns out the questions they ask have more relevance to the business decisions than the analysts, and that's really cool. So, if we can get them more power to be able to actually explore some of their own ideas. Yes, absolutely. But what happens today? How do those people feel, do you think, when they go to work with data? Like this? How would you say she's feeling? Overwhelmed? Yeah. Frustrated? I think, people spend hours on this stuff. Oh, they take their frustration to you. Yeah. Yeah, so they come back to you and they say, okay, can you make sure that this data is what I need to do my job? Yeah, that's right. So we've looked at this a lot. We spent a lot of time with people, both internally, externally, and so we have come to the conclusion that actually this type of analysis does require specialized knowledge and manipulating data in the way that people often do in their tool of choice, which, let's face it, is usually a spreadsheet. And then actually sort of updating that as business needs change is incredibly painful. So the question is then how can AI actually improve this and make it better? So really cool capabilities AIs now have. Number one, they can plan. So they can be strategic and they can sort of figure out how you might solve a problem. Number two, they are able to follow instructions, which can actually be the instructions in their own plans. And then number three, they can generate code. And so code is now a tool that they can use to follow the steps that were outlined as a part of their plan. And so they can do all of those things. But maybe the most exciting thing is just like how fast the pace of AI is moving, like the changes that we're seeing in the evolution. And so any tools here to sort of take advantage, full advantage of what's going on must actually be able to leverage those changes just as fast as they're happening. So, take a little journey with me. Imagine a world with true self-service. Data analysts, analysis for all business users in the organization, no toil in spreadsheets. Does that sounds lovely? Like they can do what they want to do, and where the data can be easily adapted as they go. Like, does this sound like a world that you want to live in? It's like, it sounds utopic to me. Okay. Well, I have some good news. That's why we're announcing Amazon Q and QuickSight scenario analysis, which is now in preview. You saw Swami announce earlier this week and is available to everybody here. You can actually just turn this on in your QuickSight accounts. And it comes with three sort of parts to this capability, which is, number one, there's this agentic analysis, and it simplifies solving these complex business problems. It's all done in the context of a sort of purpose-built experience that is familiar to BI users and people that are comfortable editing and working in spreadsheets. And these are reusable and adaptable. So at any point, as your business needs change, you have new data, you have changes to your data, you have new questions you want to answer, you can actually do that. So then what does this mean? Well, first, this agentic analysis experience will automatically suggest approaches to analysis, and then it'll sort of break those down and execute the analysis automatically as well. You can actually sort of find data related to a problem just by telling Q what the problem is that you have, and you can actually see as it breaks down what the sort of steps is that the steps are that it took. So what does it mean for be purpose-built? Well, so specifically, we give you this context for analysis that is familiar. And so it's got tables, it's got visuals, and things that you would sort of expect. And then we're sort of blending in a very native and natural way the sort of language capability. So I can point and click, I can use words, and those become fundamental principles of the experience. And of course, it works with all of my existing enterprise data. And I can even bring files and other data that I have in order to be able to sort of understand new cuts of data or changes. So then these are reusable and extensible. What does this mean? I can take that data, the sort of new cuts of data that I have, I can update them as conditions change. I can add them to an existing analysis that I've done. So this can be done as well as sort of updating the steps in the analysis or adding sort of new directions of analysis. And so by combining all of these changes, I can sort of easily adapt sort of existing sort of logic and reuse that. Okay, so I'm going to show you briefly what this looks like, and then we're going to sort of get on to our customers. All right, so do I... Demo. You see it? Okay. All right, here we go. So this is the scenario analysis capability. And so what I'm going to do first is just describe the problem that I want to solve. And so here I'm saying I want to understand trends in marketing campaigns. Now I can choose from my existing data. So here I've got a dashboard, it's got marketing data in it. I can easily just import that and analyze it directly. I get a preview of kind of what was in that data, sort of rows and columns. Now, in this case, I've got some more data in a file that I want to kind of append. So I'm just going to drag that in. I'm going to go get it and bring it in. And it's got a specific campaign in it that wasn't previously analyzed. So now that it's in here, Q is going to go determine what kinds of questions I might analyze about this data. So here it's proposing, hey, why don't you do a ROAS analysis? So return on ad spend. I didn't tell it that's what I wanted it to do. I just said, hey, I've got this problem. Can you help me? I can type in questions. So I could say, for example, go analyze Instagram as a source and kind of tell me what's going on with that. I can add multiple of these blocks. And then we can see kind of what it has done. So here it says, hey, the return on ad spend has been calculated, and LinkedIn is the highest at 1833.6. Great, okay? So I can see what LinkedIn is. Now, how did it even get there? So in this table below, we're seeing it's actually got some data that came from the source, but it's also created additional calculations, and it did that automatically in order to kind of come up with this answer. And as I scroll down the block, it's actually breaking this down for me and explaining how does LinkedIn perform relative to other sources. And then as I get to the bottom, it's going to give me a sort of readout of what it thinks is going on. So it says, hey, this LinkedIn thing's being really successful. Every dollar is generating 1833, so why don't we actually put more budget on it? So it's making a recommendation for my business. Okay, well, let's investigate this more deeply. So why don't you tell me what are some of the most successful campaigns? So I'm going to now dig in the context of this analysis. But I want it to focus only on LinkedIn. So here it's saying, okay, well, these are the sort of most successful membership drive, virtual workshop series. You can see it's carrying forward that calculation that it made for ROAS. And it's giving me a breakdown now by campaign. So that's really interesting and helpful. Now, it has, in this case, determined, and this is actually really kind of fascinating, that these engagement-focused campaigns, it calls. So it says, these are top performers like Membership Drive and Virtual Workshop Series, suggest that campaigns focused on community building, interactive content are highly effective on LinkedIn. I didn't classify these campaigns. I didn't tell it, hey, these are about community building. It actually inferred all of that just by the text that it was reading in from my data source. So this is happening kind of automatically, and it's one of the sort of benefits and powers of these services. Okay, so let's go one step further and sort of push the envelope. What if we just increase the marketing budget on those by sort of 50%? And so now it can do this. It can do a kind of like a what-if style analysis. It can tell me what it thinks would happen. We're going to increase it for these top 3 campaigns. You're going to get $777 out of this membership drive campaign. So it's sort of giving me a sort of prediction about what it thinks might happen. Here, it's assuming that the ROAS is staying constant. So it's saying, well, we're just assuming that that's not changing. So you can sort of see that visually. And then it's going to sort of go on to say, what are some aspects of this analysis? Well, if we do assume that the return on ad spend is constant for all these campaigns, then we can see that what's going to happen is going to be a sort of pretty strong performance. So it's saying, hey, LinkedIn's audience targeting and delivery algorithms, though, may affect it. So it might not actually be the case that it ends up being constant. And so rather than just going all in with your sort of 50% budget increase, I recommend that you toe step. And so you can do something smaller. Now here at the end, remember we started all of those previous analyses going. So I can sort of quickly zoom out to see what all of those are. And in each one, what we're actually seeing is an individual contextual thread. So just like this first analysis was all about ROAS and what's in ROAS and what's happening with ROAS, the second is going to be a different context. So it's all about Instagram that I asked about. And so it's going to sort of have that sort of character of a conversation as you're going back and forth on a specific topic that's being refined over time. Okay, so that's it. With that, I'd like to invite Rob up to tell us a little bit about what they've been doing at Rehrig. And let me switch this over for you.
All right, thanks, Zach. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I don't think we're on it. Hey, can you switch it back?
Oh, it's not on. It should be on.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so just a little bit about the Rehrig Pacific company. So we're a fourth generation family-owned business. We're currently in our 112th year of business, and we're a leader in reusable packaging. So our goal is really to be the trusted advisor to our customers in the industries that we serve. And you can see the background image in there. That's actually from 1913. That's the original wood box manufacturing plant located in Los Angeles. So we started out making wood battery boxes for the fledgling auto industry. Ironically, we don't do anything with auto today, but that's how we got our start a little over 100 years ago. So what we do focus on is 4 solutions, right? And over the last 70 years, our business moved from wood into plastics. And so we're injection molding plastics. We're one of the largest manufacturers of reusable transport packaging in North America. So if you think crates, pallets, totes. If you look at the tote right there in the image there, that's actually the yellow tote that we manufacture for Amazon distribution. So not only are we a customer of AWS, we are actually a supplier to Amazon on the distribution side. So we provide these solutions in 4 areas, and when deployed together, they fully integrate system for our customers, right? So it starts with our core plastics business, which is literally the foundation of our company. And then we add our material handling. So this is what we call our fusion solutions, and these are our pallet jacks that we use to move the pallets with our customers' goods from the truck to the store. I lead the technology vertical, which is IoT, AI-based software that we provide to our customers to track the assets and measure the performance of their supply chain. And lastly, we have a services team that implements our products from end to end and supports them ongoing. So why are we here today? What was our challenge, right? So if you look down in the right corner there, that's an image of a product that we make, and that's an AI-enabled smart stretch wrapper, right? And so before the smart stretch wrapper in the beverage industry, quality assurance was done by counting products on pallets, right? They count cases. And sometimes QC audits would be random, where they have to scan every UPC on that case to do a quality audit. So we basically developed an edge-based system using computer vision that images all the cases on the pallet as it spins to get the stretch wrap, and then it reports back any errors that were made according to the order. So one of the issues that we had was BI development, right? And being able to add more value than what we were doing at the edge, right? So we have all the edge users, so we call our solutions islands of automation. It could be a smart stretch wrapper, it could be a smart destacker, maybe it's a smart delivery lift. But the edge users are the folks that utilize the equipment, software to fulfill their daily jobs. And so what we really wanted to do was reach other user personas, right? We needed to reach the analysts. We needed to reach the executives, right? Our customers were demanding the data, not just the functionality at the edge, right? Executives wanted to use this data to be able to do things like take a route off the road or maybe, consolidate a warehouse. But without having some way to surface it, we weren't able to provide that to them, and we weren't able to really increase our users outside of the edge. And that's when we partnered with AWS, and we worked with QuickSight team. We started building QuickSight probably middle part of this year, and we built it into Iris. And Iris is our web portal. We call it AI-assisted analytics, and that's where our customers come to view all the data that's being collected at the edge. So real quick, just some of the first dashboards we built. This was a cases per hour by store. So everything in our business or our customer's business is based on a productivity by cases per hour. How many cases did the order selector select in the warehouse? How many cases did the driver deliver to the store? And so we're able to aggregate up all that information and create a view of their productivity across their supply chain. So this dashboard we built in less than a day. In the past, we were using React and some other BI tools. It would have taken us a week, maybe a month. Here's a little more complex dashboard that we built, multi-pane dashboards, and we can easily deliver these in one sprint now. And this dashboard actually illustrates the value of what our edge application does, right? How many pallets are going to audit? How many pallets have mispicks on them? It can get right down to the order selector and find out which SKUs the order selector is actually mispicking, right? Is it because of the SKU? Did the SKU get new branding? Or is it the SKU, where is it located in the warehouse? Is it in a slot that doesn't have sufficient lighting, and that's causing the order selectors to miss that SKU? So before we had this dashboard, their customers didn't have this data. They just get a red light, green light that it had an error, and they would fix it at the distribution center, but they couldn't actually look at the data and use it to make actionable decisions. So here's that same dashboard embedded into our Iris application, and then here we've also exposed the data Q&A button from QuickSight that allows our customers to now use natural language to interact with their dashboards. So this was a real question that one of our customers asked. It's like, which day of the week has the highest loading error rates, right? So before, they probably would have had to crash through some dashboards or export to Excel. And with this, they just ask the question, and in a matter of seconds, they come back, and you can quickly see that Monday is by far the worst day, 3 times worse than any other day of the week. Well, now they can take that data and drill into Monday and figure out what the issue is. So what's next for us? We need a deeper analytics of the edge data, deeper than what we can get from the Q&A. And so we've been working with AWS, and they were nice enough to give us a beta to scenarios. And we're going to enable our machine learning analysts to use this tool to make their jobs easier, drive faster root cause analysis, and ultimately increase our SLAs on our machine learning accuracy. So here's how we do it today. We use a QuickSight dashboard. We drill into the site. We drill into the errors. We might drill into the actual image to know if it was a real error, was it a machine learning error. It's tedious. We have to export things to Excel, and then an analyst has to look at it and make their own insights about what's happening. So by using the scenario tool, we were able to quickly use natural language again to get to the data quickly. So ask it to compare 2 sites. Like, what's the difference between this site and that site? Why does one have higher errors and the other doesn't? What's the weight tolerances at one site versus the others? Well, then I wanted to get a little deeper, right? Like, literally try to understand how weight tolerance affects my machine learning accuracy. So I literally go in and I ask scenarios to provide an analysis on what's driving the errors and what actions can be taken, right? I asked it to adjust weight tolerance and how that affected the error rate. And once I did that, it actually created its own calculations of 5, 10, and 15%, and came back to me and said, if you adjust the weight tolerance by 5%, you can increase your machine learning accuracy by a factor of 0.5%. And that's huge, huge for us. You're talking about millions and millions of SKUs that go through here each day. And so, that's very important to us. So what's the ROI for us? Well, we're anticipating that by using this tool, we can increase the productivity of our analysts probably 5 to 10%. And if you've ever implemented a computer vision application using deep machine learning, you're well aware of the analytical aspects that are needed to maintain a high level of object detection in the images, right? So many hours are spent by humans looking through images, looking through data. And we feel like with this tool, it's going to surface a lot of that data quicker. It's going to actually provide insights to the analysts before they have to make them themselves, and they can dig into that. And ultimately allow us to scale the analysts as scale customers and not have to scale analysts. And we'll be able to increase revenue by getting to those other users. And ultimately, what we really want to be is that trusted advisor to our customers, and that means the data that we give back to them about their supply chains has to be accurate. So again, thanks for AWS for inviting me here and letting us share our story. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right, Nick, you're up, buddy.
Do you want to take your laptop?
All right, we're just going to do a demo switcheroo.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Hi, everyone. Happy reInvent. All right. My name's Nick, here from GoDaddy. Talk to you about a proof of concept on scenarios in Amazon QuickSight. So first off, who in the audience has heard of GoDaddy? Can I get a raise of hands? All right, keep your hand up if you know what products and services we offer. OK, that's actually more than I expected. So As you can tell from our mission and vision, we are a company dedicated to small businesses and equipping them with a digital presence. We offer tools and services such as website builders, do-it-for-you products, email and productivity solutions, and security solutions. We're a pretty large shop, 20 million customers, recently within the S&P 500, and we have a lot of data needs. And this year, we started in earnest adopting Amazon QuickSight as our BI platform. All right, as you can see, we're just getting started, but we've made pretty good progress on adoption. And we started exploring the built-in generative AI functionality within QuickSight, data Q&A. We found that data Q&A is great. It helps with pivoting data without needing to make direct edits to dashboards. And it helps with out-of-the-box visualization using natural language queries. But as we were exploring data Q&A, we knew that there was more that we could get out of generative AI for analytic capabilities. So our internal stakeholders are folks like product managers, go-to-market operators, and marketing specialists. And they often need to explore new metrics, diagnose root causes, and understand the potential impact of changes on initiatives they're running or decisions they're making. To help them with this, we really wanted a tool that was conversational, right? One that could span across multiple data sets and one that had a reasoning engine. So enter Scenarios. Scenarios addresses a ton of these needs. Stakeholders are looking for a self-service experience, and Scenarios eliminates the back and forth between an analyst and a stakeholder, greatly reducing the cycle time needed for analytical exploration. All right, so now I'm going to show you a demo using some fake data. The first thing I'm going to show you is a live demo. I know I'm very, very brave. And we'll see how that goes. And then we're going to move to a more structured demo that's already been sort of recorded. All right, so OK, I'm going to zoom it in. So this is Scenarios. I'm just going to kick off a thread now. I'm going to ask the question, combine the data sets and calculate net subscription ads. This takes maybe 30 seconds. So as it's working, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the data set we're going to be covering. All right, I have two data sets. I have ads and I have churns. Nightingale is a code name. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for that. So within ads, we have 3 dimensions and 1 measure. We have date, customer type, product, and ads. Within churns, it's a very similar file, date, customer type, product, and churns. These 2 files help us assemble net ads, right? What is net ads? Well, ads less subscriptions. I'm sorry, ads less churns gets us net subscriptions. And so why do we need to do that? Well, net ads is an important business health metric for a subscription business. If you imagine a subscription business, we care about what's coming in, we care about what's coming out, and we want to be able to explore the dynamics of that metric. When this was new for GoDaddy, a new metric, we didn't have a super hardened data structure, right? We weren't able to go to the net ads marked. It wasn't built. And so Scenarios would have been super helpful for these operators looking to explore the metric, understand the dynamics within the metric, but they're needing to pull data from other places. And it might have looked something like this, right? We have ads and churns. Let's combine them. Cool. So as you can see, hopefully, it's still going. But we got what we need. Scenarios has combined the 2 data sets. So in a spreadsheet, you may have been doing this, or you might do this via a VLOOKUP or some ifs, right? In SQL, you do this via join. All possible, but not necessarily straightforward for someone who's not highly data literate. And Scenarios has done that. It's created net ads for us. The math checks out, ads less churns. All right, now I'm going to walk through a much more developed exploration of Scenarios to show you the analytical horsepower behind this. OK, so I've started. We're going to look at the same data sets and try and zoom pretty far in. I asked a much more specific question to get started. I said, show a trend of net subscription ads by product for the last 2 years and analyze whether any product had any major dips. Now, this is artificial data. You'll see it did the same thing. It combined my data sets to get me net ads, and then it visualized net ads. Like I said, fake data, the plot is very stark here, right? It's convenient, but it's OK for our demo. You'll notice that there's a huge trough, that teal line. It's called Websites and Marketing. And at the end of 23, beginning of 2024, we have this huge dip in websites and marketing net ads. So I'm obviously going to point this out to scenarios, and I'm going to ask it to dig in here further. It looks like websites and marketing, you know what, I'm going to zoom in even a little more. All right. Looks like websites and marketing has a huge dip between my time period of interest. Analyze whether that's being driven by ads or churns. I'm going to go down to my second visualization. You can see here I have 3 lines, ads, churn, and net ads. Net ads is the purple on the bottom. You'll notice that that orange line is a mirror, essentially, of net ads. And that goes to show that churns is the thing that's driving the change in net ads. Scenarios is going to confirm this. It says the substantial rise in churns was the main factor behind the dip in net subscription ads. Now Scenarios is going to start to go into implications. These are okay. I haven't given it much context at all, right? So they're not highly relevant yet. I'm going to show you much more contextualized recommendations later on. So we're just going to skip past that for now. All right, so as an operator, and again, remember, this is where the power comes in. I'm an operator doing this. I'm not a business analyst. As an operator, I have tribal knowledge. I know my space, right? And I have a set of hypotheses. And in this demo, I'm going to play a hypothetical operator who has a hunch. And I think that dip in net subscription ads is due to a change in term length. All right, so as a subscription business, we can sell annual terms. We can sell monthly terms. I think that's pretty typical for subscription. And what I know, based on my knowledge, is that monthly term subscriptions renew at a much slower rate than annual term subscriptions, right? And I think that has something to do with what I'm seeing in net subscription ads. So I'm going to actually upload a new file. I'm going to upload a new file of ads that breaks out a new dimension called term length, annual versus monthly. And then I'm also going to append the renewals of those subscriptions to start to understand the renewal rate for those things. One of the cool things about Scenarios is you can kind of rapid fire questions if you want. You can start to break out threads. And I did that. I just wanted to validate on the right, like, is my hypothesis that monthly renewal rates are lower than annual renewal rates accurate? And you can see right here pretty clearly, annual renewal rates consistently about 80%, monthly about 40%. So yes, that is indeed a thing, a phenomenon that I need to account for. All right, so I'm going to ask Scenarios to start to dig into the renewal rates for my time period of interest, and then also split it by monthly and yearly, and look at the proportions, because I have a feeling it has something to do with the proportions. So Scenarios brings in this new data set. It classifies my time period, other, and then my dates of interest. It looks at the renewal rate, so 64 for what I'm going to call the baseline period, and 59 for the drop period. So, okay, cool. The drop period does indeed have a lower renewal rate. And then it goes and looks at the proportion of monthly versus yearly plans. So you can see in the baseline period, other, this last line here, that the proportion is 60 annual plans and 40 monthly, whereas in my drop period, it's 48% annual and 51% monthly. So that is a pretty good indicator that this is contributing to what's going on. It's going to then give me a visual representation of this, and it's going to go even further to do some statistical testing on these changes, which is a nice, I didn't ask for it, it's a nice little accoutrement. So we'll continue. It's going to start to give me more recommendations. These are going to get better, but I'm going to, just in the interest of time, save the demo of recommendations till my last little box. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the most analytically intensive question yet. So I've narrowed down a key hypothesis that it's my mix shift in term. That's what's driving the change in net ads. But now I want to really hone in on by how much. And so if I were a business analyst doing this, I would create a what-if analysis. And I'd probably in a spreadsheet what I would do is I'd create the actual state, which looks at subscriptions by term during this period, their relevant renewal rates by the annual versus monthly, and how many renewals we have. And then I'd lay it out in a hypothetical case if I take that same renewal rate, but I changed the term mix, right, to essentially look like what what it would have been during the baseline period. So what if analysis to create this hypothetical case where my term mix was the same is essentially what I would do as an analyst. I would build out the hypothetical case, build out the actual case, take the delta of those two, and that's my answer. That's how many subscriptions I lost. Can I do this? Sure. Is that easy if you're not highly data literate? No, no way, right? So Scenarios does this with ease, right? It essentially asks, it accomplishes the what if analysis pretty clearly. I asked it to do a hypothetical side-by-side. It prepares the data, and then you'll see here that it's creating a what if scenario. So down here, we have what I just described. In gold, we have the hypothetical. So this is the hypothetical annual on the right in gold, hypothetical monthly. And then teal, or blue, is the actual. You sum up the gold, you subtract the sum of the blue, and you get the number of your loss. And it shows that right here. It's kind of hidden, but it's that 18,000. That's the loss. OK, 18,000 lost because of this mix shift. It's now going to get into some interesting observations and recommendations that are pretty relevant at this point. It's telling me to enhance yearly subscription value, highlight the long-term benefits and cost savings of yearly subscriptions and marketing materials and during customer interactions. So it's giving me things to think about for how to get more customers into annual plans. Improve monthly subscriber retention. So it's noticing that monthly subscriptions had a much lower renewal rate, and it's giving me some points or some different ways to maybe get that renewal rate up. Optimize the pricing strategy. Consider adjusting the pricing structure to make yearly subscriptions more attractive. Enhance customer success programs. Targeted marketing. Create marketing campaigns that specifically address the benefits of longer-term commitments. And finally, product development focus. I really like this one. Consider developing features or services that are exclusively available to yearly subscribers. So if I'm reading this, these are great experiment ideas for me as an operator, right? Maybe I'm going to go take these and I'm going to build a bunch of A/B tests and I'm going to see what sticks. OK, the final thing I'm going to show you is moving into planning. So this is all well and good. I'm going to go run with this. But I'm also an operator in a large business where I have accountability, and I've just lost 18,000 renewals. I have to figure out how to make that up. And I want to do it pretty quickly. So I'm going to ask scenarios, hey, if I want to do this, if I want to make up these 18,000 renewals in 2 months, how would I accomplish that? At what annual term proportion would I need to be running to make that up in 2 months, right? And this was one where scenarios surprised me. First, they got the answer wrong. That's OK. It's not perfect. No AI tool is. But with that wrong answer, it gave me a visualization to start to understand the different term proportions that would yield renewals at different rates, right? So if I wanted to make up 18,000 in 2 months, I'd need approximately 87%. That's super, super high, right? 87% of my plans getting an annual term. But now I can just start to look of like, OK, well, maybe if I think 70% viable, I'll make up 10,000. The nice thing is, if scenarios is giving you an incorrect answer, you can go into this block and you can say modify. I let it know that it needed to recalculate, given that it got their answer wrong. And you can see now it has the answer correct, 9,000 over the course of 1 month, which is 18,000 over 2 months. OK, let's go back to this slide. OK, so just to recap, in this demo, we combined data sets. We started to do some root cause analysis. We went pretty deep into what-if analysis and modeling out the root cause and really understanding the driver and the size of the impact. We moved into recommendations. We moved into experiment ideas. And then finally, we moved into planning, right? We did all of that with an operator and an AI tool without business analyst intervention. That's what makes me super excited about scenarios, is it's going to shorten the length of time for something that could have taken weeks, right, of back and forth questions with a business analyst. That's all I got. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thank you. Great job. Great job. Stay here. Stay with me.
Right.
OK. So what we're going to do, we're just actually right on time, but I'm going to bring these guys back up so they can take questions. Great job, team. Have you guys seen the A-Team? Do you know the A-Team?
Yeah, I know it.
Fine.
Okay.
Sad.
I know it.
Well, my joke was going to be we're the Q team. You can try this out right away. So as a reminder, agentic analysis, purpose-built for BI, reusable and extensible. You can sort of get it just by going to the preview manager in your QuickSight instance. You do this per user. So every user would turn it on for themselves right now in the preview. Once we sort of do go to generally available, it'll just sort of show up in the left navigation for everybody. But I'll leave you with this sort of question and thought. What journey will you take with this new capability? And if you have a chance, please do sort of visit our community. Great place to sort of connect and learn. Very helpful people up there. Lots of sort of good people trying out this capability. And some of those people are here sort of on this slide. I'd like to thank you all for coming. And I would say I hope you enjoy the rest of your reinvent, but I really just have to say enjoy the party tonight. Yes? Okay, thank you all.